Hi, vinyl community. This is Glenn, your low end music freak. This is a contest entry Against the Groove's Push to 50 contest. Against the Groove has a pretty cool channel. I really like it. He is pushing for 50 subscribers, so I hope everyone supports him in his endeavor. Then it's on to 100, which won't take much longer, I'm sure, because you've got a great channel. So thanks for putting on the contest. It was kind of a cool idea. We were asked to come up with 10 albums that we purchased based on one song that we heard, and then bought the album having never heard the rest of the album and enjoying the album very much. So let's start. So I'm going to be going into some of the stuff because I'm an old timer. When these albums first came out, so they're probably pretty familiar with most people now, most of the cuts on these albums, but in the day when I bought them, I heard one song and then bought them, so bear with me. First one I'm going to say is the Doors album. This is their premiere record, The Doors. Everybody's familiar with this, a classic record. Light My Fire, obviously. Heard that song, loved it, the hypnotic keyboards and the guitar and Jim Morrison's great vocals. Turns out to be one of the great albums of all time. It was great at the time. Glad I bought it and have enjoyed it for however many years it's been out now, since 1967. Another artist I discovered, I heard the song Slow Turning by John Hiatt. Never heard John before. I know John was a singer-songwriter in Nashville. He probably had a couple of songs out before this. But anyway, that was the first time I was familiar with him, hearing that song. Immediately went out and bought the album and absolutely fell in love with John Hartford. He is one of my favorite singer-songwriters. I've seen him in concert like I don't know how many times, maybe half a dozen times or more. Great artist. This is a fantastic album. Any John Hiatt album is a fantastic album. The guy's amazing. Next, Mountain. Who remembers Mountain? The song Mississippi Queen. That's what got me to buy this album. And it turns out this was a great album too. This was a great rock trio, produced by Felix Pappalardi, who worked with Cream. He was in the band too. Great trio. Mississippi Queen was an awesome rock song. The other song off this album there's two of them, Yasgur's Farm, which is fantastic, and one of my favorite songs of all time, Theme from an Imaginary Western, which Jack Bruce wrote, and these guys did an incredible job of it. Leslie West's guitar solos in Theme for an Imaginary Western are epic. Probably in my top 3 or 4 guitar solos of all time on this album. Next, what do we got here? The Animals, British Invasion, 1964, House of the Rising Sun. This isn't the exact album. This is, I think, the British cover. The Canadian cover, I obviously don't have it, so I got to use this as a substitute. But House of the Rising Sun was a mind-blowing song when it came out on the radio, and the Animals became one of my favorite British Invasion bands. This is their first album's awesome. Their first 4 or 5 albums are awesome. So that's another one. Next, San Francisco. Who remembers Blowing Your Mind to Summertime Blues, Blue Cheer? This album is called, oh man, I don't even know if I can pronounce it, Vincebus Eruptum. Great heavy psychedelic album from the 60s. I don't think I had ever heard an album as heavy as this one. I don't know if this would even be considered the first heavy metal album. It's still a great album. The songs are fantastic on it, and they just do a killer version of Summertime Blues. Next, a band that kind of came out of nowhere at the time and had a song on the radio that was just unbelievable. Sultans of Swing, Dire Straits. Had to go out and buy that album right away. Mark Knopfler's guitar playing and the songs in this album are incredible. This is a great debut album from an awesome band and an awesome talent in Mr. Knopfler. Next, It's All Right Now, Free. Paul Rodgers, Paul Kossoff, great band for he was for its time. It's All Right Now was a great song. There was a shorter version, 45, that was on the radio. Bought it. The extended version's on the album. Great album. I forget how many albums Free put out. Maybe 3 or 4, and that was about it in their career. But they're great. Obviously, Paul Rodgers went off to form Bad Company. Okay, here's an artist that probably most people would have known about at the time, but not me, because I wasn't a Genesis fan, but Peter Gabriel. So I kind of ignored Peter because I really didn't like Genesis that much back then. I much more appreciate them now. But Sledgehammer, this is the first Peter Gabriel album that really I took notice of. I'd heard Salisbury Hill before, which is a cool song, but I never bought the album. But I heard Sledgehammer on the radio, and I just fell in love with that song. I bought this album. This frickin' album is awesome. So it still stands up today. Great record. My favorite Peter Gabriel album, even though it's probably his most commercial. I've since fell in love with Mr. Gabriel and have his complete catalog and most of the original Genesis catalog when he was in the band. Next, I think this is number 9. Chucky's in Love. Rickie Lee Jones. Chucky's in Love came on the radio. What a catchy frickin' tune that was. And this album is friggin' fantastic. I do have the vinyl on this. If you ever pick up the vinyl on this, it's one of the best sounding records out there. Great album. I love this. Rickie Lee Jones is fantastic. She kind of hung out with the Tom Waits gang back then, and so that's kind of how I kind of associated her with, but great album. Last but not least, one of the great songs from the 60s, I Am the God of Hellfire, and I Bring You Fire. The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. That song was just incredible, and this album is great. I love Arthur Brown. I'm a big fan of his prog stuff after this too. He did a thing called Arthur Brown's Kingdom Come, which is freaking fantastic. Guy's amazing. Fire, Arthur Brown. So that is my 10 selections against the groove. Thank you so much for putting on the contest. It was a lot of fun, and good luck to everybody who enters, and we will talk soon.